This is the Samsung SyncMaster 2433 monitor, and it's not working. The monitor does power on. When we hit the power switch, you'll see the blue light comes on. The blue power light comes on, indicating that it is getting power. It's not totally dead. It is connected to a video source. Now, if we take a flashlight and bring it right up close to the screen, we can see it right there. There's an image. So we know that the monitor is working. It's trying to put up an image. The only thing that isn't working are the backlights. This monitor has compact fluorescent lamps to illuminate the screen. Now, compact fluorescent lamps require high voltage to operate, and that high voltage is provided with an inverter. And this is a common source of problems, and I suspect that that's what's going on here. So we're going to open it up, and we're going to find out what's going on. Now we're looking at the back of the monitor. This monitor is held together with only two screws. One is located here, the other is located here. Those two screws have to be removed. Removing the screws requires only a simple Phillips head screwdriver. The top and bottom of the monitor now have to be pried apart, and this is the tricky part, to do this without messing it all up and breaking things. Start prying it right here and work my way around. Now I've got the entire bottom part of it pried open, and from here things kind of pop open a lot easier. Now the sides have been pried off, and I can almost get it off at this point. Just sort of hanging on by these snaps at the top. This thing is really put together tight. Okay, it's now pried apart except the center, right, and this is the last part. This is really hard to get apart. Everything's off but this area right here across the top. Okay, finally got that back off. All the electronics are under this right here. This sheet of metal basically is covering the inverter wires, and that just comes right off, exposing our inverter wires. These wires supply the high voltage to the inverters. This cable supplies signal to the panel, and this supplies the control buttons and the illumination light. We're going to have to disconnect all of those. There's usually a tab on here you want to press before you pull. And there goes that one. This one you can leave on. We'll leave that one on, but these others have to come off. Okay, now we have all these wires free. Now this thing can simply flip upside down, exposing our electronic boards. We have two boards, processor board, and a combination power supply and inverter board. And this is probably where our problem is. It's held on with 1, 2, 3 screws, and those will come out. Okay, we've removed those 3 screws plus a metal shield. We can simply pull this back and out. And there's our board. Now I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this board from this controller board, and we can get a closer look. There's just one great big cable here. We just disconnect that and we'll have it free. We've got the board out of the monitor, and the first thing we see is there's discoloration caused by overheating. And we know that heat is the enemy of electrolytic capacitors. On close inspection, these two capacitors, you see a slight upward bulging, which often indicates the capacitor is blown. And I did check these capacitors with a capacitance meter, and they were both measured bad, but also this fuse is open. The capacitors are 680 microfarad, 25 volt. Those are number C301 and C302. The fuse is 4 amp, 125 volt, made by Littlefuse. I believe it's a fast blow fuse, and it is F301. I replaced these 3 parts. It did fix the monitor. I have 2 monitors of this same type, the SyncMaster 2433. They both have the same problem. They power on, but we get no backlights. In both cases, it was these 3 parts. So it seems to be a trend. So if you have this monitor and you're getting power without backlights, check those guys, because that's probably where your problem is going to be. So we've fixed two very nice 24-inch monitors for a few pennies worth of parts. I did check all the other capacitors and diodes and everything, didn't find anything. Okay, let's check out the capacitance on some of these capacitors just to see what kind of numbers we're getting. Wow, 7.6 ohms. Boy, that capacitor's in really bad shape. Let's look at the second one. 14.9 ohms. That's unbelievable. Okay, so the capacitor is leaking and it's got enormous electronic series resistance. Very bad capacitors. Cable's reconnected. I left this cable connected. Just be careful not to stretch it and damage it. And now we have to put those 3 screws back in. Big screw, little screw, little screw. And also we should not forget to replace this bit of shielding here. It hooks right here. And also be sure to secure that cable with this device here, which is for that purpose. Okay, cable plugged in and secured, shielding replaced, and the 3 screws tightened down. We're going to simply flip this board over. Again, careful not to damage that cable. We have to reconnect these 2 cables, which go to the backlights. This cable supplies our button board and our lights. Okay, the 3 cables are plugged in. Now with these cables, remember to thread it underneath these little metal tabs, because that's going to be important to get everything to fit right. We now have this bit of shielding that we have to replace. A little tricky, you got to sort of get these things to hook in first, and then you sort of push it down. Okay, the shielding is now snapped back into place. Now we're ready to put the plastic back on. Okay, we've snapped the back on again, and we replaced these screws here and here, ready to test it out. And here we are with the cables hooked up and connected to a video source, and it's working. Yay!